This is a fascinating study outcome. This is what's known as a rainbow graph. This is heart rate variability through a chiropractic lens. Do you see that right here, green zone? 2,486 different patients were evaluated in their state of adjustment. They were deemed to be clinically neutral, meaning clinically well-adjusted. We all know that there's no endpoint to that, but they were at a state of ease in their progression in care by a number of different means. And 2,486 scatter plots were put into this to show where the person who was well-adjusted could maintain vagal tone. Now, there's a whole story on how we collect data and everything else that associates, but just watch this. That means that this zone, which we refer to as zone 5, this zone in here is where you would love to live. In fact, that's where all of you should be living, and all of your parents should be living, and all of your children should be living. Everyone should be living in zone 5 because it's a highly adaptive, coherent, resilient state. It means that the autonomic nervous system, as expressed through vagal tonality, which is parasympathetic dominant, means that you are in a state of, as Dee Dee said again, ease, which in today's terms is called coherence. And so Antonovsky in 1978 said, there is a state of coherence, SOC, that exists, and we're going to take away this relationship of disease being a state of boogeyman over here. And he posited to his group, and he said, what if we have a distinction and we call this state of coherence, a state where there is this genius being able to be expressed fully, and we're going to call that salutogenesis. It's a genesis state, meaning that it promotes a sense in the body, the mind, and the spirit of being at ease and being productive and being creative. And he challenged that to be the antagonism of something called pathogenic state. Now, for those of you who obviously know Maslow's hierarchy, when you enter into the pathogenic state of how you want to position your message and your practice, Maslow's hierarchy talks about the safety and security as being your foundational base elements. It means people have to feed themselves, they have to have the right, temperature in the home that's there, and they have to be one step ahead of death. This is where medicine has positioned itself, and if you take a look at the triangle, it's the broad base, and there's an awful lot of people that can be helped or at least be communicated to in that bottom end. Chiropractic in a salutogenic model certainly can go down there. We can save a lot of people that fall out of the apple tree. But the best place to meet people, especially in our Western society right now, is in the mid-zone, because those people are making decisions about moving upwards versus fighting to stay alive in the downward model. It doesn't mean you give up your ability to be all to everyone, but it means that when you position yourself in a salutogenic model, it means that you get to work with people that can make incredible decisions. 2,486 different patients ended up here. Do you want to know where the published norms are for the general public? Down here. The average public is walking around barely in that yellow zone at the bottom. That means that all you have to do is give them a couple of adjustments and they're in a state that they never would have achieved as staying in public norm. But if you tend to do that, as we know through neuroplastic modeling, through time and repetition, there's a stickiness in the nervous system that says it learns. You see, as much as there's a triune of life that talks about a force, the nervous system never stops learning. So that when you apply good in and good in and good in and garbage goes out, 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 you win every time. You see, the value of being adjusted is summative. This is SEMG. This is the distribution of how the precentral gyrus is expressing itself on the right side of the spine and the left side of the spine. There is another amount of testing that we've done on well-adjusted patients that tell us that when a person sits there, they should be able to modify and manage gravity very well. And just as a little hint, gravity ain't going away unless you're in a moonshot. And so the realities are you better be well set up to handle gravity, because gravity is going to bite you and waste energy. You know what gravity does? Besides compress you, it has to have a resistive force to it. And that resistive force is incredibly costly. Sperry was the Nobel Prize winner in I believe, 19-something, high 70s, 80s, came up with the knowledge that 86% of consumed energy was spent by the body to maintain itself in a gravitational field. So just imagine if you're walking around with the equivalent of a 5-pound or 5-gallon jug on your right-hand side, how much energy you have to keep it upright. That's the cost of being subluxated. And you know what the end cost of being subluxated is? This. Is that the end regulatory processing, the ability of the body to process the biophysiology of the organs and glands and to maintain temperature, it's in itself deteriorates to where it's struggling to do that in a very controlled environment. And so what we have here is a pattern of where the neurology is struggling to maintain itself at ease. It's not disease. We're in a salutogenic model. This isn't saying, oh, I've got a pinchy nerve at somewhere around my T9, so my digestion might be failing. Indeed, that could be happening. But from a salutogenic subluxation, not vertebral bone out pinchy nerve doctor, from looking at the wholeness in the person, you can say, oh my gosh, it's such an intelligent design that's saying I'm doing everything I can to throw it to the right, throw it to the left, get myself neurologically balanced, and I can't do it without your help. I can't do it without your help. Please, please put me under a care plan so that my nervous system will live again, so that my nervous system will extend my greatness and my passion for being who I am.